So the markets are selling off today, and I just wanted to make a quick midday update for you guys just to take a look at things here. And it's just going to start off with a QQQ here, and this is looking pretty normal to me, guys. It's just looking like what is happening is price broke out. It found some resistance up here with some previous candles up here and here and here, and now it's retracing back to a support. And currently, that support for the QQQ sits around 463, maybe even down to 458. So um, basically, what's really happening here is just normal, right? So any kind of fear out there that things are going to collapse further, I just don't see it yet. And even if you take off that Ichimoku, you can still see a possibility of even coming back down to my angle down here, which would be a little bit more painful around 440. So if those levels that I mentioned before do fail, then I think a back test of these levels could be possible. But until that happens, we're not going to assume that. So just keep that in mind here, the 458 up to the 463. I think those levels are acceptable for price to hold. And if they do hold, especially that 458, then I think price will just start to build a base to continue back up. And the same goes for the SPY here. And that was pretty obvious to me what really happened. It just got rejected by the previous all-time high. And if it can't break a previous all-time high, then what's going to happen next? It's going to go back and retest levels. And that's exactly what's going to happen with the SPY. And whether that comes back down to the 537 or even the 529 level down there, that is still yet to be determined. But just want to let you know that it is a possibility since, again, this got rejected twice, right? This previous candle here at 565, and then this last week got up to 564.20, right? So very close to previous all-time highs, but it could not break. So be prepared for maybe a more downside for the SPY. And this could be a little bit more downside than the QQQ simply because that it got a little bit more extended than the QQQ. So don't be surprised if it does pull back into the 530s, which would be kind of a big drop for the SPY. Let's see how much of a percentage that would be. That would be maybe like 5%, 4.5%, right? So we got to keep that in mind that that is a possibility for the SPY, which would still be a perfect breakout and a back test for a possible continuation higher. So everything is still normal with this and with the IWM as well. We'll take a look at that. Again, it got rejected at my 221 level that I've been talking about for a while. And where is price headed now? Back to the 212s, right? Maybe even 209, 210 zone. So again, it's just a breakout and a back test there. And that is perfectly normal as well. So all I'm seeing is just normal retracement after a rejection at resistance. That's all I'm seeing for every indice right now, whether it's the IWM, SPY, or QQQ. Now let's go take a look at a few more ETFs, and I'll just pull up ARK right here. And ARKK, I did mention that 44.35 on Friday, and that was for the conversion line. But now TradingView is a little bit acting up right now. It's not reading the previous month wick that was all the way down into the 30s, right? So it's saying the conversion line is at 47 when in fact it should be in the 44s, right? But nonetheless, I was actually reading, because it's the past 9 candles, right? And I was reading this as the high of the candle instead of, it was supposed to be this one right here. So it is a little bit above the 44.35. It should be like 44.64 or something. So regardless, where did price open today? It did open at 44.54. So it did, in fact, open below that conversion line, not above it, right? So that just means that it's still in this range, right? Whenever TradingView gets around to readjusting their candles again, I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but this monthly candle should be down here in the 30s, right? 37, 36 down here. So whenever they get around to correcting that, then this will adjust accordingly, but it should be in a range of like 44.65, right around here to here, right? So I see just a really tight trading range kind of for ARKK down to 42 up to maybe like 45 or so. So I think it is going in the right direction, but it just needs some time to break out of this resistance above. And once it does, it'll be clear skies ahead for some time, right? But that's still just in the process of developing. This whatever price action you see today, it's kind of irrelevant. It's just normal. So let's just take it as it is. And if it does get back down to the 42 level, that is the opportunity right there because price already did wick through last month down there into the 36s. So I believe after closing the month back above, this 42 level is looking really solid as a support level and for eventually a continuation higher. So as time goes on, the more bullish this chart does actually look. And then we'll take a look at some Palantir here, but I'm going to look at Palantir on the log scale just simply because I like to see where that angle sits. And that angle does sit there around um, right up here, I should say, at maybe 33.70 now. So that looks like it's going to be resistance for some time. So this stock looks like it just wants to cool off, right? It wants to cool off a bit, and it looks like it wants to maybe come back down and retest that 618 Fibonacci level right here, the 618, the $30 level. And I think that's a really good possibility. So we'll look at the weekly chart on that. But right now it is actually getting stopped at some support, right? You can see the angle here that it was a support here, this green angle going up was a support, was a support, was a support, or sorry, was a support, flipped it to a resistance right here, then it flipped it back to a support. So it might not go back down to that 30 level if this can hold as a support. So we're going to watch this throughout the week. And that level kind of sits at current price around 30.80. So 30.80 could be a good support level if this weekly candle does close back above it. But nonetheless, there still is a lot of resistance above at the 33 level up there. So just in a range, and as it gets closer to resistance, get a little bit more cautious. As it gets closer to support, get a little bit more bullish. And I think if it ever did get back down to the 27s down here, I think that would be an awesome opportunity just because of these confluences down here. So essentially what you're looking at is just a breakout, got rejected at resistance, and trying to back test these levels currently. If they hold, great, it can continue higher. If not, worst case, maybe goes back down to 27 or 26. So we'll keep an eye on that. And next we'll look at Tesla here, and Tesla is looking pretty good for intraday, right? It did open back in the cloud like I said last week was going to happen, and right now the resistance does sit above there around 221, and the true support does sit at the bottom of the cloud there, and the baseline which still sits at 204.90. So this is kind of a wide range too for Tesla. So it has the opportunity to go to the top of the cloud, 226, and it also has the opportunity to go back down to the 205 level, which is still within range, still bullish, no matter which way you look at it, right? But one thing I was pointing out last week is that 213 level, not only is it the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud right there, but also when you go pull up a fib, a trend-based fib extension here, you can see that the 236 level does in fact sit right there at 213, maybe 213.53, and price is basically currently around there. And I want to just focus on this a little bit because if you go straight across here, you can see it was a resistance level in the past, right? And this on these with these candles right here. And look, it was a support here. Then the 382 was a resistance, and then it went down to the 0 level, and then back up, and then it had that bullish engulfing candle. Um, on August 15th that started to close candles above the 236, and then it started going higher and then a little bit lower, right? And then it flipped it to a resistance again and confirmed it as a resistance, and look, now it's back on top of that 213. So this is even more confluence on the 4-hour chart here that I want to show you how important that 213 level is and why price is kind of sticking around that 213 level the whole day. It's because of this right here, the trend-based fib extension of the 236, and this zone is really important. So let's see if this 213 can actually hold throughout the week. And if it can hold, then there's really no point, and it's not really necessary to go back down to these lower levels on the weekly because it already happened last week. So really going to focus on that 213. Can it get back to the 210, 212, 211 today or tomorrow? Yeah, that's possible, but I want to see the week continue to close back above that 213 level, because if that can, then you can see right here that it'll just start to build that base to get back up to that 382, which is currently sits around 232. So that's what I'm looking at. If this 213 does hold, then 232 could be next. but that's not going to be too easy because you can see the resistance of the 382 here on this fib, then the top of the cloud, and then you got the conversion line there at 226. And then even after that, you got that 200 week moving average, which currently sits at 234.81. So it's a step-by-step process, but first step I want to see is that 213 level hold throughout the week. So let's see if that can happen. And next, I'll just go over a couple of minors. And if you guys want to see the rest of my daily update, you can just subscribe to my Patreon, and I'll link that in the description. And essentially, what's really I'm looking at is a lot of levels are being broken on the minors here, especially when you look at the Ichimoku. So when I put on the Ichimoku and the SMAs here, um, so with CLSK, it's clear that it's below the cloud, below everything on the Ichimoku. So we can just take that off, and there's no more support for the Ichimoku on the weekly chart, which means that we have to use the confluence of our SMAs and my angle. So what sits below for CLSK? It's a combination of my 45-degree angle right here. You can see it's been a perfect resistance in the past, flipping to a support. But ever since it broke out here in November, of 2023, it's never been successfully backtested. So it came close right here, but it never touched the green line. So I think that's going to be the target, right? Now that it's below the 200-week moving average, it's below the 50-week, it's below everything of that Ichimoku, it's below my blue level there at 1370. I think the target now is below, and that's between the green level here, maybe around 850, or a little bit below around 807. I think the low eights could be the target for CleanSpark just because um, price gravitates to the path of least resistance, and that currently is down now that everything is below its support, and now it flipped it to a resistance. So CLSK looks like it wants to go lower. So do I like it at current level? I do not, but I do like it around 850, like I mentioned on X, or down to the low eights. I think that is the target for CLSK. And next I'll do Mara here, and just Mara is looking the same, right? It lost all the support of the weekly Ichimoku, it's all up there. So I can just take that off, and it's currently going towards the 100 down below, the 100-week moving average. So that is going to be my next support level for Mara there at 1373. And I think that could be a good opportunity of holding simply because the first week of August right there, it did already touch it and confirm it as support. So going back down there to back test it to make a higher low would make some sense, right? So I think this one looks like a little bit better than CLSK, that it still has a chance to hold its previous higher low. Unlike CLSK, it looks like it wants to go lower. So essentially with Mara here, uh, it's looking like that 13, what was that level again? The 1373, that level has a chance of holding, right? But if it doesn't hold, then guess what? It's going to go back down to the ARK right there, which kind of sits around 1124, 1130, 1129. And you can see going in the past here that it was a previous resistance here, previous resistance, broke out, never back tested, right? So we got to consider that a possibility that it might want to come back down to back test those angles and arcs, right? And maybe even worst case, come back down to the blue level here around 987. So probably if that 13 level is broken, I can see maybe 1130 for Marathon for Mara, right? So a lot of them are losing their Ichimoku support. A lot of them are losing their moving average support. So then when that happens, all you can really do, or all I really do, is start to rely on GAN. And you can see exactly what really happens when you do this kind of symmetry. You can see that it gets rejected by angles, then it finds the next angle as support, right? And now this angle was lost as support, so there it's going to gravitate lower. And let's see if that 13 level can hold, right? 1370, 1380 level can hold. And if it can, great. If not, then I think the best opportunity would be in the 1140s down to the 980s for Mara. So it looks like there could be some more pain ahead for all of them. And again, if you guys want to see the whole review here, it'll be on my Patreon every night, right? I do it basically every trading day, daily, and I do weekly updates and monthly updates as well. And I'll be also doing all these from NVIDIA up to Enphase or coins. So if you guys are interested, just click the link in the description and you can subscribe. But uh, essentially what's really happening is everything is doing everything as normal, right? And what the Bitcoin miners are doing, they're just following Bitcoin price right now. And Bitcoin price right now is kind of stuck, right? Bitcoin is stuck. And I'll just pull this up really quickly here. And we can see that Bitcoin needs to get above this 62.5 right there for me to actually be any kind of bullish for Bitcoin, because you can see it's still trending down and it's still holding this level as a support right here, right? So I think that has the potential to go back down there, but it does have support before that, right? And you can see the support before that is the top of the cloud. And again, this has never, since it broke out in October, it has never back tested the top of the cloud. So I think that is necessary before any kind of price moves up. So don't be scared on this price action. It's obvious where it got rejected today. It got rejected right at the conversion line there at 59797, right? What was the high exactly? Look at that, 59803, just a little bit above the conversion line, a wick above, right? So this price is normal too. So everything in the market is doing what it should be doing. So there's no need to panic. And as long as Bitcoin is not breaking out, the miners will not break out either. So that means maybe just wait for Bitcoin to consolidate a little bit lower. Maybe wait until 53,000. That could be a possibility right down there at the top of the cloud. Or maybe 54,000. That could be in the next weeks to come, right? There's really no rush because I think the short term downtrend is down, but the longer term is still going to be up, and up it's going to be huge in the long term, right? Getting back up to these levels up here, like minimum 250,000 and so on. But in the short term, there really is no catalyst to bring it higher. So just with Bitcoin, with the miners, you just got to be patient. And again, if you guys want to see all my daily crypto and stock reviews, just check out my Patreon linked below.